So, in the last chapter of the Four Teachers book, he basically gives us a takeaway that he wants us to take from this book. He starts off by saying that the longer you teach, the better you will be at your practices. So, the longer you teach, the more you'll start to understand what works best for you and what works best for your classroom. It's just a learning curve that you'll learn as you go and you'll learn what works best for you. He says the effectiveness of a teacher goes back to what the teacher thinks of the student. So a teacher can only be as effective as she believes her, or he or she believes her students are. We will only be able to help out those students if we believe that they can actually do it. You cannot be effective if you do not know what effective is. So you can't be effective if you don't know what you're doing. We can't teach something that we don't know how to teach. So you can't be effective if you don't know what effective is. So make sure that you understand what effective is to be able to be an effective teacher. In the poverty books, the first thing that it talks about to me is the socioeconomic status. So most teachers and non-teachers included think of students in poverty as children who live in urban area with no sources or the right to education. And because the student doesn't have the proper resources, they tend to fall behind and struggle in class. We as teachers are supposed to change that notion. So in reading and teaching education, one of the major themes the author talks about is the socioeconomic class. And they give us 4 different classes. So that is the working class, the middle class, the managerial or upper class, and the owning class. So they would refer to the working class as just people who work day in and day out to support for their family. And if they had a situation that happened, they might lose their job or something, they would be able to afford bare necessities. The middle class would be a class that works well. If they had lost their job, they would still have a little bit of savings, so they would still be able to get by for a little bit longer. The next class they talk about is the upper class or the upper middle class. This class would be able to last months without a job. They would have to cut back on a few luxuries, but it would not be as life-changing, and they would be able to be okay and comfortable without a job. And finally, we talk about the owning class. This class is so wealthy that they don't even have to work. Some of them may have jobs or businesses or things of that nature, just so that they have something to do. But normally they don't have to worry about their financial well-being, and they're usually secure with themselves, and they have their family secure as well. These are normally people who we would consider of having old money. It's just passed down from generation to generation. All of these socioeconomic classes are important to discuss because every student that you may have may not be in the same socioeconomic class. So one student may be in that working class and another student may be in that owning class. Depending on where you are, there could be a mixture or there could be a majority of one over the other. And we need to understand what backgrounds our children come from so that we can better understand what resources we need for them, what resources they need outside of the classroom, and make sure that we're putting that into consideration when we think about what we want to do for our homework that we send home, as well as the lessons that we do inside the class, because there may be some things that we expect the children to do that we can't have them do just because of their socioeconomic status. They may not be able to do such things. We also just need to think about that just in general so that we're aware of what's going on in our classroom and the things our students talk about to each other. This is something that we should know about every student.